Hi, this is a Red-Eyed Coder Club channel and you are watching the Docker for Data Science course. How to use Docker, Docker containers that you can download from internet, or how to create your own Docker containers, how to run PostgreSQL database in it, and so on. But before we start, we have to install Docker. I will use a virtual machine. I assume that you use Ubuntu based Linux distribution like me, and so let's Google for Docker docs Ubuntu. And I got a link to the official Docker documentation, and we can use this instruction to install Docker. But I am a lazy guy and I want to install Docker from the official Ubuntu repository. So super user do apt install docker.io. Okay, it was installed, and let's check its version -v. And we ensured that the Docker was installed. And now I have to enable Docker service, and to do it I have to run the following command: sudo systemctl start docker. Then I want to run Docker at startup. Again, sudo systemctl enable Docker. Let's check its status. Sudo systemctl status Docker, and we can see that the Docker is running and everything is alright. Q to quit. Okay, and then let's run the hello world command. I want to clear the terminal, or just press Ctrl L. So sudo docker run hello -world. The Docker didn't find Hello World app locally, and it's downloaded. And now we can see hello from Docker message. Okay, and by default we have to use the sudo command to run the Docker commands as an administrator. And it is the right way to do things in Linux world, but we can use Docker without sudo command. So to do it, first of all, I have to create the Docker group with the group add command. Sudo group add Docker. And we can see that the Docker group already exists. So now I have to add my user, Oleg, it's me, to the Docker group. We can do it with the user mod command. So sudo user mod -a, that means append, capital G or -capital G, and the A parameter, A options, means append the user to the group that mentioned by the -g parameter. Then I have to specify the name of the group I want to add the user. It's the Docker group, and after that the user, it's me, Oleg. After that, I want to enable the settings by su superuser Oleg. That's it. Let's check it. Docker ps. ps command lists all running Docker containers. I have no one yet, but we can see that the Docker command runs without sudo. In the next video, we will try our first Docker container. Okay, we have Docker installed, and in this video we will download the Docker container with a Flask application as the most simple example. So now let's Google for Docker Hub. Let's get in. And in the search field, let's input something like Flask demo. and we can see a list of Flask applications, Flask containers, and let's look at this one, Paroko Flask demo app. Click on it, and at the right side, in the right sidebar, just copy this link to the clipboard and let's paste it into the terminal. Enter. So many companies, by the way, have their own Docker repositories that they support and constantly update, and it's very convenient. What is the main reason to use Docker? It's very simple. I am Python developer and I use Linux, and you are my customer and you use Windows. Okay, how can I deliver you the project I developed? And what we have to do if your system lacks some needed libraries for the project. But I can give you just a Docker container with the project and you will run it on your machine with one command. And everything should work the same way like in my own machine. Sometimes here at the full description section there is a link to the documentation, or there is a command that we have to run to start the Docker container. But in this case there is no command provided, neither a link to a documentation. But it is not necessary. I assure you that you know already what is needed to run the downloaded Docker container. So let's look at all downloaded Docker images. Docker images command. And we can see that I have two images, Hello World from the previous videos and this Flask demo app. Let's try to run the container Flask demo app in the way we used earlier in the previous video with the Hello World command. Docker run, and then I'm starting to type the name of the repository, and then I'm pressing Tab key, and it is after completed, and hit enter. And we can see that this Flask app uses default port number 5000. Let's open it in the browser. I will use the link to the localhost 5000 port number, and we can see that the server is not running. Actually, the server is running, but it's running inside the Docker container. We have to forward the port inside the Docker container to the port on the host machine, on your main local machine. And we have to match the ports. So Ctrl+C to stop the Docker container. And let's modify our command. Docker run, then -p, that means port. And then I'm specifying the ports numbers. 5000 colon, and the first port number before the colon is the port on your host machine, on your local machine, and the second port number is the port number inside the Docker container. And let's specify the name of the container. Let's try it now. And we can see the Hello World message. Now let's run the Docker container on 8000 port number like Django does. The Flask server was run on 5000 port number inside the Docker, but on my local machine I use 8000 port number. 5000 port number doesn't work. Okay, in the next video we'll download the Jupyter notebook Docker container and we'll try to get inside. Now I want to repeat my steps from the previous video and install a Jupyter data science notebook, and I want to put inside some CSV file with the data. So I created a new Docker folder and put here my CSV file. Then I am opening a terminal from this directory, and I am opening Atom editor. Also, I want to create a file which I want to use as a reference. For example, it will be just txt. So let's get to Docker Hub again, and here I want to data science notebook. And as the first result, I got official Jupyter Data Science Notebook. And there is a link to the documentation in this section. And there is a command to run Jupyter Notebook. Okay, I'm copying this command and paste it into the terminal. It will take some time. Okay, it's downloaded, and let's use it. Docker run -p default port number of Jupyter notebooks. Jupyter Data Science Notebook. Control click on this link, or I want to copy it. Okay, the work directory. We can create a notebook. It's working. And now I want to use some data with this notebook. And how can I do it? I got a CSV file that remained from my web scraping course. So if you'd like to get some experience in web scraping sites, welcome. The link to the landing page of the course will be in the description to the video. Okay, so I want to use this CSV file, or you can download the dataset from the internet. And now I want to put the file into the Docker container to use it there to make a data frame, for example. Let's look at the container, what it got. I have to open the second terminal because I need to have the container running. So I just split my terminal in two. And I use docker ps command to get all running containers. Also, we can see here the container ID, the hash. And now I want to get inside this container. How to do it? To get inside, we have to use the docker exec command. Docker exec. Then I have to specify the I and T parameters. I means interactive standard input, std in, and the T parameter, or just T here, means a terminal. Then I have to specify here an ID of the container, this one. Copy and paste. And then the command bash. And we can see that the shell prompt is changed, and it means that we are inside the container. So let's list all files, ls command. We can see our untitled Jupyter notebook and the work folder. And now I want to copy the coins CSV file to this folder, to the work folder, for example. To put the file inside the container, I have to use the docker cp command. I have to get out from this container because all Docker commands should be executed from your local machine. Okay, I need a list of files, and I just forgot to look at the working directory. Ls command again, then cd work to change the directory, and I want to use pwd command to get the path of this work directory. Okay, exit. In the txt file I want to write the command. So to put the file inside the container, I have to use the docker cp command. Docker cp. cp stands for copy. It's a standard Linux command, so the Docker uses the same commands almost. Then I have to specify the file name I want to copy. I want to copy the coins CSV file. Then I need the ID of the container. Copy. Colon, and the path of the working directory. It was home jovian work. Copy and paste. And I want to save this file to the coins CSV file 2. And that's it. Let's use this command, copy and paste it here. Let's look at it again. ls cd work ls, and we can see the coins CSV files here. Okay, the work, and we can see coins CSV here too. File not found because this notebook is opened outside of the work directory. Doesn't matter, we can create a new one. Okay. And I want to notice that the Docker commands we have to run from our local machines, not from inside the Docker container. And that is why I used 2 terminals. Okay, and now we got a new problem. If I'll close the Docker container, Ctrl+C, the work won't be saved, and we will lose our data. Don't restart, just close it. Let's run it again. I press the up key. And we have no untitled notebook here, and the work folder is empty. So we have to get the way to save our work, and to solve this problem, Docker containers have attachable volumes, and we will look at them in the next video. You have probably heard countless times that you should never edit a Docker container state, or editing container state is an anti-pattern, or if you need to edit a container state, you should use volumes. And in this video, we will talk about how to use volumes. I am going to attach a volume to the Jupyter notebook container, this one. So the notebook I will create in the container will appear on my local machine in the Docker directory, here. First of all, we have to run the container from a working directory you want to use. I use this Docker directory. We can use again the run command p888 Jup and I'm pressing Tab to autocomplete the name. Enter. OK. Copy. Paste. The work directory is empty. To use volumes, we have to use the docker run command, but we have to use the -v parameter. V means volume. And then I have to specify the absolute path to the directory in my local machine that should be mounted to the Docker container. And to do it, to get this absolute path, we can use pwd command. Here in the second terminal inside my Docker directory. Let's copy it. Copy. Trailing slash, then colon. And again, after the colon, I have to specify the corresponding path that will be used inside the Docker container. Before the colon is my local directory, after the colon, the directory inside the container. And I used this path in the previous video. Home, Java and work. And of course, I have to run it on these ports. Doesn't matter. Just jup. Copy this command, stop this container, paste the command here, and after jup I just press tab to autocomplete the name of the repo. Okay, hit enter. The work folder, and now it has coins, CSV and the text. And if I create a new notebook with some state, save, then let's close it. Let's kill the container and run it again. And it's working. My state is saved. The next video will be about how to install libraries inside the container. In this video, we will talk about how to install Python libraries into a Docker container. Now we have a Jupyter notebook container running, and as you know, to install any Python library from Jupyter notebook, we can use external commands with the exclamation mark. And we can see that the requests library is already installed, and so we can make requests to an API, for example, to get data. It's the first way to do it. The second way is to invoke a terminal from the notebook. So here, new terminal, and then as usual, pip install ps4, for example. And here we go again. The problem is the same. If I'll kill the container, the installed beautiful soup library will also disappear. And of course, we have somehow save the new state of our container. And to do it, we have to create the Dockerfile. Dockerfile. And then here, from where it is the container I want to use. It's official container for Jupyter notebook. So let's paste here the name of the container. Docker images. Data science notebook. After that, the run command. And I'm writing the command I want to use. Pip install vs4. Let's save it. And now I have to run the container with the Dockerfile. So I need the terminal. Let's kill it. And here I'm running the docker build and dot. The dot in Linux and Mac stands for current directory. Also, we can see that the hash of the container is changed. And in most cases, it is not convenient to use hashes of containers, so we can add a tag to the container this way. Docker build -t tag and my notebook, for example. Dot. Successfully tagged my notebook latest. Okay. After that, we can use the previous command to run the container with the attached volume and use with it the new ID or hash of the container or its name like we did before, or just this tag. Copy, paste my notebook. Okay, it's working. And in the next video, we will talk about Docker Compose and how to simplify our Docker commands. And also Docker Compose allows to run containers simultaneously. We have to use Docker Compose when we have to run several services simultaneously. For example, we want to save data to Postgres database. So we need to have PostgreSQL running too. It's the first reason. And the second reason is that Docker Compose allows us to write more simpler commands, because all of our commands are too complex. It's not convenient to use them. So first of all, I have to install Docker Compose on my Ubuntu-based Linux distribution. I want official documentation, Linux, then I'm copying this curl command. And this sudo command. And that's it. Let's check the version of the Docker Compose. Okay. Docker Compose allows us to put our commands in a config file. Let's create a new file. It'll be docker-compose. It's a YAML file. And then let's Google for Docker Compose example. And again, official documentation, I need version 3, and I need some example. This one, for example. And paste it here. Then, in the services section, we have to enumerate the services we need. So instead of the web app, let's write Jupyter. The build section is the information about the path to our Dockerfile. Our Dockerfile is in the same directory, so here I remove all except dot. And the Dockerfile is the name of the Dockerfile. Remove this. I have no args. And also I want to remove this version, except 3. And in the txt file I have two auxiliary commands I need with port and volume. So I want to add a new key to the docker-compose file on the level of the build section. It will be volumes dash, and as the value, the volumes key gets the path from my command, from this command. Or instead of the first part, that is before colon, I can use just dot and slash. That stands for the current directory. Okay, and then I have to specify ports. So on the level of the build and volumes sections, I'm adding a new key, ports dash, and as a string I'm specifying ports. And that's it. Let's save it and run. Docker compose up. And it's working. Our files, that is the volume was attached. And the beautiful soup is already installed. And that's it for now. If you like the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.